back today talking about The Giver by Lois Lowry. Today we're going to be covering chapters 1 through 5, talking about the content, the different themes you might see, some different characters, and some important events. Now, first of all, I want you to know about what sort of viewpoint that the book is written in. This is really important for understanding literature because literature can cover a wide variety of different viewpoints. Sometimes books might have it from many people's different point of view. In this particular book, Lois Lowry chooses to use third-person limited omniscient point of view, which is a really fancy way of saying that it's only through Jonas's eyes. So you see his world through his thoughts and his feelings, and you don't have any access to anybody else's point of view. Something that's really interesting is that Lois Lowry immediately starts to set up what kind of community that Jonas lives in. While you're reading these first 5 chapters, I really want you to take note of the different kinds of rules that the community has, and I want you to compare it to the sort of world that you live in. I'm sure you will probably find that it's very, very different. The way she sets it up is it starts to look a little bit like what we would call a utopia. That is 2 Greek words put together, which actually break down to mean no place. Now, what she means by having no place is that, in a sense, a utopia is like a dream world. It's a place that doesn't really exist, a paradise. Now, when you read it, I want you to think, do you think, is it really a utopia? Or is it something called a dystopia, which means that it's a utopia, a wonderful place that has fallen apart, okay? So a good place gone bad. Now, you have to have your own assumption, your own conclusion on, do you think it's a utopia or a dystopia? So while you're reading these first 5 chapters, I want you to be thinking about, would these rules be good for you, or do you think they might hurt? A lot of books focus on the idea of utopia or dystopia. They might talk about the different things that will happen in society, but they're really interested in is how those rules and that sort of world affects the characters and people within, and what kind of psychological impact it has on these people. And I want you to be thinking about, as you read this book, looking at the characters and thinking about the different rules and standards, regulations, the things that they must go through. For example, the idea that you don't just get married to anyone you want to. In the book, you're actually assigned to your spouse according to your personality type. Do you think that that would be something that would make you happy? You're also not allowed to bear your own children. Instead, you get assigned to your own child. And they're actually made by what they call birth mothers, who are women that have a special job of just birthing babies. Now, is that something that would make you happy? How do you think that you would personally react if that was happening in your own life? So I want you to be thinking about this community that Jonas has to live in. Do you think that it's a positive thing, or do you actually think it's a negative thing? You're going to find that there are no such thing as sickness, pain, there's no poverty. But does that really mean that the world he lives in is good? So that's something I want you to be asking yourself. Another thing is, like I said before, there's major themes in this book. And already by Lois Lowry talking about the community that Jonas is living in and having conversations with different people, she is bringing up those themes again. Those themes are freedom versus security, and individuality versus conformity. What that means is freedom versus security is that I would rather give up my rights of freedom or my choice in order to be safe. In Jonas's world, people are very, very safe. They could take a pill if they're hurt. They aren't afraid of being killed. They're not afraid of war. But at the same time, they're not even allowed to choose their own spouse. So to you, is it more important that maybe you would be able to have freedom of choice, or that you'd be completely safe? The other thing is, Jonas, you already start to learn, is a little bit different from a lot of people in his community. You'll find that he has a little bit different colored eyes, pale white eyes. And in the community he lives in, sameness is valued way above individuality. But you already start to realize that Jonas is a little bit different. And wouldn't you find that you have qualities in you that might make you different from your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister or even your friends, something that makes you special in you, somehow that God created you unique for a special purpose. And in this book, it tries to erase all sense of individuality and uniqueness that God has created in us. And is that end up being a positive thing or a negative thing? And you'll find as the book unfolds. The last thing is that Jonas, and what I want you to think about too as you get older, Jonas has to go through a really special ceremony called the 12s. And there he gets assigned his own job for the rest of his life. Can you imagine that at 12 years old that you would already be assigned the career for the rest of your life? Do you think that would make you happy? That is one very important example that you can think about as you're growing up and deciding what things you like and what things you want to do, how hard that might be for you. These are just some things to be thinking about as you read through chapters 1 through 5, and we'll catch up starting on chapter 6. Talk to you soon.